And we are live. Welcome to another edition of DT Live. This will be a free and open chat Tuesday. Anybody that would like to join me live in a video chat, feel free to join me live inside Zoom. Okay. And I'm not sure how many people we will have joining us either on video chat in Zoom or in the YouTube chat here this evening. I only gave you guys about a 30 minutes heads up that I would be streaming this evening, but hopefully everybody got the notification. YouTube is a little strange in their notifications. I know I'm subscribed to somewhere around 70 different Linux YouTubers, and even the ones that I have the notifications set on, you know, the little bell is turned on. Sometimes I get their notifications, sometimes I don't. We already have a few people in the chat though. Alex was here a little bit before the stream started. How you doing, Alex? Ansem is here. Joe Panico. How you doing, Joe? Present Arms. He said he'll be with us soon. Very cool. Thomas. How you doing, Thomas? Tony T is in the house. Mad Deuce says hola. Que pasa, amigo? Josh Stevens, he waves hi. Hi to everyone. Good to see you, Josh. And Dan. Dan's in the chat. Noble Savage is also here. What is this notification of free speech you speak of? Yeah. Cotech. Dustin is also here. Bruno says, nice to see you, DT. Good to see you, Bruno. And Jake says, hello from Brazil. Thomas says he's well. Asking about me, I'm well too. I'm as well as I deserve, I guess. It's been a day off for me, a rare day off, so I've just been relaxing, sitting around the house. Of course, we got the holiday coming up tomorrow. It's, of course, Independence Day tomorrow, the 4th of July here in the U.S., federal holiday, so I don't have any big plans on the 4th. I probably will just, you know, spend some time with the family. I'm sure we'll get together, cook, you know, eat a lot of food, and maybe play some games, you know. Getting together with the family is always nice, but I don't doubt I'm going to do any, you know, real partying or anything. I rarely, well, I never go to like any kind of clubs or anything these days. Been years since I've done anything like that. Once or twice a year, I will hit up a casino every now and then. I like to check out the blackjack tables or the craps tables. And usually if I do that, I do it on a big holiday like the 4th of July or New Year's Eve. But I'm not going to do that this year. Tony says the stream is pixelated. According to the stream health inside the live preview here in YouTube, everything looks good on my end. So I'm not sure what's causing that. Yeah, Terry Love says he nearly missed the notification. I was just about to turn the PC off. Okay, cool. Haram Bisco says hi. How you doing? Yeah, Jonathan Clark is here. He says staying cool. Yeah, it's hard to stay cool. Yeah, Alex says Windows is leading the poll. Is it going to be fun? I hope Windows is not leading this poll. Let me pull up the poll. You've got me scared now. For those of you that don't know, the last time I did a live stream, I put up a poll. You know, you guys get to vote on the next operating system I live in, and yes, that is correct. The next operating system I live in, because 2 of these are not Linux distros. So let me pull up the, see if I can show you my browser. Yes, I can. This poll here, what Linux distro should I hop to on my main production machine? Of course, only 3 are Linux distros. Your options are Arco Linux, Ghost BSD, Sabian, Seduction, Windows 10. And of course, one of them being BSD and the other being Windows 10, I thought they're not going to get that many votes. A few trolls and haters will want to see me try to live in BSD or Windows, but most people, I'm sure, are going to be sensible about this and go with something like Arco, Sabian, or Seduction. Matter of fact, that's what I would vote for, Seduction. Let me go ahead and cast a vote. But no, most of you, and it is a very tight race. Windows 10 and Ghost BSD. Wow.
But no, most of you.
Right, looks like Joe's trying to join us here. And we'll wait a second for Joe to try to get in here. Mugen says it's pixelated on his end too. Okay. One thing I will mention, just in case anything crazy happens, it is storming here. It's a pretty bad storm too.
It's not on your end.
Okay.
It's YouTube, because I did put a message in there. Every channel I've been on in the last half an hour or so.
Yeah.
Started out at 144p. Go to the lower right corner. For whoever's watching, click on the gear and change it to 720. It'll be fine. And there were other people complaining of the same thing, so it's not on your end.
Yeah, because you know, OBS has a stream health little button on it. You know, it gives you green if it's good, red if it's bad. I've got green in OBS. YouTube also does the same thing. They do red, yellow, green, and right now I have a green in the live preview of YouTube. So YouTube says the stream health is looking good. So could just be their servers. You know, sometimes it gets a little crazy. But like I said, it is a pretty severe storm outside here this evening. Just popped out of nowhere. It was a very hot day, and sometimes we get these, you know, thunderstorms that just pop out of nowhere. The sun will be shining 1 minute, and then it'll be like 60-mile-an-hour winds and hail for like 10 minutes, and then it's sunny again.
I look like I need a shave over here. Holy cow. I should have jumped in. I should have looked in the mirror before I jumped in. Sorry.
Well, you know what? I was thinking the same thing. I went a couple of days too, but I'm not looking quite as hairy as you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you know what? I can't grow it up here anymore, so I grow it down here. Right?
Yeah. Looks like you've gone about a week, and where I've been about 2 or 3 days.
This is 4 or 5 days. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily I'm not that hairy as far as, like, I can't grow a full beard, you know. There's holes, spots, you know, and my hair, you know, well, I haven't really grown it out in about 20 years, but it's kind of light brown, so it's not black. If it was black, you know, it would look pretty bad.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I was going to discuss a few of the news here. Let me go back here. Of course, the big, some of the big news recently, people have been asking me about what my thoughts are on SUSE being sold for $2.5 billion. My first thought on that was, wow, SUSE is only worth about 1/3 of what GitHub was worth, because GitHub sold for $7 billion. You know, I would never have thought that, but...
Derek!
Hey, Ben. How's it going?
Is Joe still in here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
You know, good.
All right.
Well,
Shit.
I did the super newbie.
How are you guys doing tonight? Oh, wait. Whoa. What's that?
Ben, are you on a phone?
Yes, Derek.
Okay. All right.
I'll be on my computer in a few minutes. I was just...
No, that's cool. Yeah. I just knew the resolution was a little off on your laptop.
I'm on my iPhone. I'm not on my laptop.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just about to wash up when you guys started the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll be on for a little while, Ben. But yeah, the SUSE being sold, I guess, what is the new company? The EQT Partners. I don't know anything about that particular company. I really didn't know anything about the old company that owned them, which was Micro Focus. SUSE has changed hands, I don't know, half a dozen times probably. It is a profitable company, though. That's why people keep buying and selling it. I'm actually surprised that Microsoft wasn't involved in this, because I know Microsoft wants to get involved in Linux, and one of the things I always mention is Microsoft might make a play at one of the big Linux corporations, Red Hat, SUSE, Canonical, and if SUSE was, you know, shopping around, I'm surprised Microsoft didn't take a look at it. Maybe they did, maybe it just didn't work out.
There was a story that popped up earlier about, I don't know if it was from OMG or where it was from, but of course everybody says let the conspiracy things start, that, you know, now Microsoft's a platinum member of the Linux Foundation.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
well, you know, people think that maybe these companies that are platinum members like Microsoft and Google and these other large corporations, they are basically trying to buy influence with the Linux Foundation and you know, the kernel developers. I don't know if that's really the case. I don't know how much influence like just being a platinum member does. Right. I mean, it's a lot of money to be a platinum member, $500,000, but it's not that much money, especially for companies like Microsoft, Google. Google just became a platinum member, by the way, which was actually one of the other main stories here. Let me see. I don't know if OMG Ubuntu reported on it. Yeah, they did, actually. It's right here next to the SUSE story. Google is now a platinum member of the Linux Foundation with a $500K contribution yearly, of course. $500,000 for a company like Google is a drop in the bucket, especially when Google makes so much money off of Linux. There are hundreds of millions of Android devices activated every month.
Right.
I don't know how many Chromebooks Google is selling, but they're selling millions and millions of Chromebooks. Google makes a ton of money off of Linux. And the fact they're just now becoming a platinum member, I honestly thought they would have already been a member. I thought they were. That's the first thing when I saw this story. I was like, really? Oh.
Well, yeah, because that's pocket change to them.
Yeah. And, you know, I bet Google probably does contribute in other ways to the Linux kernel and the Linux Foundation. At least I hope so. Because, like I said, they've made billions off of Linux.
Well, you know, and correct me if you think I'm barking up the wrong tree with this, but it would make sense if they can have, just like Microsoft, have their fingers in there of some sort of influence, because data is how they make their money. Now, granted, they may not be data mining directly through a distro like, you know, Microsoft does through their OS. Right. But if you're using their product in some form or another, right, you're giving up data. So
right. Their main business is data collection. Actually, their main business is serving ads. Right. But the byproduct of that is they have to collect data to serve you better ads. So that's really. Yeah. Right,
and that's what I'm saying, because you're going to access it whether you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux. You're going to still go on the web. You're still going to access. You're still going to get, you know, the ads. So why wouldn't they invest in it if it's going to be advantageous? Right. You know.
Yeah, and actually, this OMG Ubuntu article, the last paragraph mentioned, you know, the Linux Foundation has over 800 members, including Canonical and Red Hat, which are both silver members, and SUSE, which is a gold member. So. What I consider like the three big Linux corporations out there, Canonical, Red Hat, and SUSE, none of them are platinum members. Oh well, it is what it is on that. I just thought it was an interesting story. People have asked me to comment about the SUSE sale. I really have no comment because I don't know anything about the company that bought it or the company that sold it, to be honest. Google becoming a platinum member of the Linux Foundation, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm glad they're contributing. They should. So
yeah.
Looks like Ben is still away. I don't know if he's trying to connect on his laptop or not.
I'll be with you guys in a little bit.
Okay. So, what's your plans for the 4th, Joe?
Well, they haven't been set in stone, but I know, I guess my son and his girlfriend and her parents, they'd reference coming over here, and I think that, you know, I've got the kids next door too. They'd probably be coming over, so I'm assuming we're going to wind up grilling out and just hanging like we always do. So nothing super different, kind of like what you described.
Yeah, that's all we ever do. We get together, you know, and usually I like the grill. You know, we'll cook some ribs or steaks or something, you know.
Yeah, no snake or squirrel like you're talking about.
No. That's for really special occasions.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's the wrong time of year for squirrel. It's, you know, winter was the season.
Yeah.
It would be illegal for me to take one right now, Joe. I couldn't do that.
Oh, okay.
Although sometimes when they're in the bird feeder and, you know, all that, sometimes I want to go grab my 22, but.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. Well, you know what?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to tease you. I hope you're a better shot at that than we are on ballistic. And I say we because you gave me way too much credit for ballistic overkill the other night. But thank you.
Yeah, I'm not bad with a 22 rifle with open sights. You know, out to 50 yards or so, I can hit like a bottle cap. So, but getting further out, my eyesight's not what it used to be with open sights. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit that 40 mark and it kind of gets.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. I'm not too far past 40 though, so.
Yeah, see, I got a couple years out. You're just a kid to me.
Yeah.
Then again, I look like it tonight, right? So.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Let me check out some of the other big news people have been asking me to comment on. Well, that was the big ones people have been asking about with SUSE and Google. This just dropped just a couple hours ago. I don't know if you noticed this, Joe, already. Elementary OS Juno beta is available for download.
I had not seen that yet. No.
Yeah, I just saw this posted. Actually, I saw it posted by somebody on Reddit about 2 hours ago. I've already downloaded the ISO, but I haven't done anything with it yet. Oh, you hear that thunder?
Yeah.
Very loud. Yeah. Yeah, so if my internet goes kaput, you guys will know what happened. But yeah, so this will be Elementary OS version 5.0. So they are jumping ahead in version numbers because the last version was 0.4. So instead of going to a 1.0 version, they're just going to go ahead and jump all the way to version 5 for Juno. So that's a little strange, but
there's been a few of them doing that where they're jumping way up in numbers and then they're coming. I don't know what the.
Yeah, SUSE did that with. Didn't they do that with one of their recent releases?
Yeah,
or
was
it
like
Gecko?
40 something.
Yeah, they went to 47 and then back to like 14, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Yeah, it does seem strange. They get creative, a lot of these distros with their version numbering. I wish they would just stick to something normal. Version 2 follows version 1. Some of the new features in Juno look like have a new nightlight feature. Desktop panel now adapts to your background. So I guess that transparent panel they have. Let's see if it's in the screenshot here. Yeah, it kind of adapts to the colors of your wallpaper, I guess. Kind of cool. Neat little feature. Animated system indicator icons. Improved power applet. New installer. Isn't that the installer that they're collaborating on with the Pop OS guys? Isn't that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's similar flavors, yeah.
I think so, yeah. I could be wrong about that, but I know that the Elementary guys and another distro are working together on a installer. I think it's Pop OS.
Well, Mate, who was Mate? Who was Mate collaborating with for a while there too? Wimpy.
What? You talking about the Ubuntu Mate guys?
Yeah, weren't they involved in elementary too?
I don't think so. I would think
they
would just
known flavors, but I thought it was, or maybe I'm thinking of something wrong. I know Wimpy was involved with something a while back too, or
yeah, I can't imagine Ubuntu Mate would not use the Ubiquity installer though, the standard Ubuntu one.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
It would be strange.
They were collaborating with somebody on one of the other ones. Maybe it was Solus.
Could be.
That might make more sense because Solus has a Mate version too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Elementary is going to have better high DPI support. That won't affect me. I don't think it'll affect you, Joe. I don't have any monitors. No 4K monitors or anything like that. I'm not that high tech yet. Let's see. Notifications no longer show by default. New sound effects. Yeah, just a few of the new features coming in Juno in the beta. Again, it's available for download. I already downloaded it. The download did take a little bit of time, probably because this was just announced. A lot of people are downloading it. I don't know if there's a torrent. That would be a better way to download it, though. Let me refresh my poll here. I was showing you guys the numbers when Ben joined in earlier. Wow. So Windows 10, 1,807 people have voted for me to switch to Windows 10. Thank you guys. Ghost BSD, 1,758 people want me to live in Ghost BSD for a month on my main production machine.
Where are you doing your poll at, Eric?
I put it in the description of the show here.
Okay.
It's at pollmaker.com. If you look in the the show description, you'll see it.
Okay.
I'm back.
If I show the numbers here.
That is kind of weird, Derek, that a lot of people have voted for a non-Linux OS.
83% of the people that voted in this poll voted for a non-Linux OS. That's
83? Really?
Yeah, 83% of the people that voted in this poll are voting for a non-Linux operating system. It is a very tight race between Windows 10 and Ghost BSD right now.
You know, that's kind of ironic because on only one of my computers, my tower, is running Windows.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else is running either Mac or Linux.
Yeah. I know absolutely nothing really about BSD. I don't know how I would do what I need to do in BSD, how I would get accomplished the work I need to get done in BSD, but I really hope it wins if the choices come down to Ghost BSD and Windows 10. I'm actually rooting for Ghost BSD.
I think Ghost BSD would be the smarter choice, personally. I mean, if I was to pick one of the two for myself, I'd say screw Windows, go BSD.
Yeah. The only problems with Ghost BSD
is
obviously I won't be doing any gaming for that month on Ghost BSD. I don't think I could do much with it.
Well, I know BSD has wine at least. And
no.
It doesn't?
Wine?
What the hell?
No, I don't. Does it have Steam? I'm sure it doesn't have Steam either. So that you say already, you know.
God. I'm sorry. Pardon my word, but that is just sad.
Yeah.
You don't have wine. How are you supposed to game on the darn thing?
You're not. That's what I was saying. You know, but I don't really do a gaming channel anyway. Yeah. So
BST. I'm sorry. That's.
I threw my music vote in for Arco Linux because I'm curious.
Yeah, and I would have loved to have done Arco.
I'm sorry. I think Arco Linux should have won.
Yeah.
Because then at least you can do a lot of the stuff that normal people do.
And I voted for Seduction, and literally nobody wants to see me try out Seduction. So.
I don't know anything.
I know you've done a boatload of content on Arco.
I voted for Seduction, and
I think that's a heck of a lot more user friendly than Ghost BSD. A boatload of content on Arco.
Edwin.
Hold up, Ben.
Got to mute him. He's got to mute his video.
All right. Sorry about that, Edwin. Be sure to mute the live stream in YouTube now that you've joined us on Zoom. There'll be a weird feedback if you don't. So.
You hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep,
oh,
you're good.
Great.
All right.
I've got a suggestion. How about Proxmox, which is a Debian stable distro, and it has ZFS as the root file system, and it works beautifully.
I've never heard of that. I might need to check that out.
Yeah, it's
I've never heard of it.
I know that does a root file system for ZFS properly. It's working extremely well. I've got XFCE on it. Like you, I like XFCE. I don't like the other distros on it.
GNOME was the word you were looking for, Edwin. I don't like GNOME.
The other one, KDE. KDE.
Yeah. Well, I give the KDE guys a hard time, but it's not horrible. I lived in KDE for a month on the channel at one point.
Well, I tried to live in KDE, and my Gentoo system did nothing but crawl. So I finally said, "To heck with this! I'm going to Ubuntu, and I'm happy."
The problem with KDE is really some of the problems with the Plasma desktop is not even their fault. Like for us NVIDIA users, a lot of the problem is NVIDIA. It's not necessarily, Plasmas.
Well, that's why I tried i3 and I tried XFCE. So those three desktops, none of them worked fine in Gentoo for me.
You had problems with XFCE and i3 and Gentoo?
Yes, Derek. I had i3, KDE, and Gentoo. And i3, KDE, XFC, all of them. None of them work. They all lag.
Somebody's dog's working.
Sorry, that's my dog.
That's fine.
At the door. Nonetheless, I had issues in all those GUIs. None of them worked right. I couldn't even open Chrome. That's how bad it was.
So what was the problem? Was it like a?
It was. I mean, I couldn't even open the Whisker menu. Is how bad it was.
Oh, so it's like a graphics driver problem then, probably.
Well, my laptop that I did Gen 2 on had 2 graphics cards, an NVIDIA and an Intel. And unfortunately, I couldn't get OpenGL to work at all on either one. So I finally just gave up and installed Ubuntu. And funnily, GNOME on it is having no lag, whereas in KDE or any of the other GUIs I tried on Gen 2, neither of them would be fine. It was just the silliest thing.
Yeah. Well, GNOME is not my favorite desktop environment. I've mentioned that, but I will say one thing it does do better than Plasma. GNOME just works. There's no screen tearing issues. You know, all the problems I have with my NVIDIA card that I have with Plasma.
Like I said,
GNOME just worked.
I didn't have that many apps installed. I had I couldn't open the menu in XFC without serious drawl. And I tried enabling a swap. That did nothing. And I finally just caved and said, okay, if this is going to lag this way, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like, you know, unfortunately, it's hardware specific to you, Ben. Yeah. You're probably just going to fight with everything on that machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gaming laptop, and I'm just going to have to keep Windows as a separate partition for it to work properly. But there is a GNOME applet that used to be in Unity, but they ported it to GNOME called Prime Indicator. And unfortunately, I could not find it in any other GUI. Well, I did, but the GitHub was kind of closed down. So I finally just installed GNOME and called it a day.
Yeah.
I have a question about VirtualBox.
Okay.
I understood that this 4.16 would allow guest editions to be baked into the kernel, so you don't have to add them manually anymore. Does anyone know if that's happened and does it work?
I'm not running the 4.16 kernel right now. I'm not sure if it's already baked in or not.
I've tried, let me interject right there, Derek. I have tried distros that do ship with the 4.16 kernel build, and I believe they are, if you're running a distro that is more bleeding edge, because Ubuntu still ships with 4.15 on it. You can upgrade to 4.16, but it's a real complicated process. You'll be pulling your hair out. So I would highly suggest just getting a more mainline distro that is going to be a little bit more tedious, but it does have newer kernels in it that I believe have the VirtualBox modules pre-installed, but I don't know for sure. I mean, all I can say is download maybe Arco Linux or some other more mainstream mainline distro.
Well, 4.16 hasn't been out long enough really for anybody but Arch and Gentoo to have it. I mean, you're going to have to be on a rolling release right now.
And maybe LFS, which I would not recommend to anybody if you don't want to go through painless hours of compiling. But like I said, download either Arco or maybe something a little bit more pre-built along the Arch lines and download them and see if 4.16 has it, because I mean that's the best thing you can do with any Linux at this point. I mean, you never really know until you try with these things. I mean, that's just the reality.
Now the kernel guys mentioned that the 4.16 release would have the guest editions baked in, but they wouldn't have all of the features of the guest editions baked in. It might take some time before everything works as expected. So
yes, and I mean, the reality of it is when you're installing anything in VirtualBox, whether it's Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, you're just going to have to install those guest editions. I mean, you'll have it in the kernel probably, but unfortunately, until you install those drivers, there's just no way you're going to get the full acceleration out of it.
Okay. I was playing around a little bit with the OBS overlay there, guys. So some of y'all watching the stream were probably wondering what was going on with the chat there. That was me.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm not very familiar with OBS, Derek. I've only been using it a short time, so.
Yeah. Well, I've been using it for a little bit, and I'm still not very familiar with everything you can do with this thing. There's a lot you can do with it. You know, it's one of those things. It's a big learning curve, really, once you get into it.
Yeah.
Well, and there isn't the guest editions add-in that they're doing in that kernel. I think is more just to have a bigger opening resolution or screen, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't it?
Well, the guest editions, yeah, do a lot of things, but yeah, they help give you a native screen resolution to your whatever monitor you're running. Because by default, without the guest editions, the biggest screen resolution you're going to get in most VMs is 1024 wide. Yeah. And most of us are running, what, 1920, you know, for our screen resolution. So that's a big problem. So that's the main thing it does, but it also gives you access to plugging in USB devices on your main machine. The VM will have access to that kind of thing. So the guest editions actually do a number of things.
Right, it's tying more into your actual system, because I've noticed that, and I don't know where the huge difference is like there's certain, even if you're running Ubuntu flavors, there's certain distros that will, I've got a 34-inch monitor, as you know, and they'll open up just fine full screen.
Yeah, that's because Ubuntu puts the guest editions on the ISO.
Right.
Yeah, so you don't have to install them, they're already on that live medium.
But not all of them. That's my point. Is some of them seem like they do and don't. And if you're pulling the flavor and you're pulling the same kernel, it should. But I don't know what the differences are there.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is some distros ship with it, some don't. Some know a lot of people are going to check it out in a VM, so they go ahead and put the VirtualBox guest editions on the ISO. Some don't, maybe to save space. Some don't because they know people are going to have problems with the guest editions, so they don't want that headache. They don't want to be responsible for the, you know.
Yeah.
For example, I recently reviewed Red Core Linux on the channel. Red Core, the last time I reviewed it, had the guest editions installed on the ISO, so you could run a live ISO and VirtualBox, and the guest editions work fine. They removed that with their latest release because it was too much work for them to try to maintain that. So.
Oh God! And I saw in your video about that, Derek, you could not get the VirtualBox editions to compile.
Yeah, that's probably why the Red Core guys dropped it, is because they were fighting with it. So they just said, you know, screw it, we're not going to ship it. Because
yeah, at least until VirtualBox makes a patch.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they've just got to update those drivers and then it should work fine. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And even Eric Dubois said that in his distro, Argo Linux, they're having problems getting those to work too. So they're not pushing out a new ISO until they can get it fixed.
Yeah. When you find something that Eric Dubois doesn't want to fool with, you've done something, because all the work he does over on Arco, that man is a machine. And then he has time to do all those videos.
He's got a kick in trying to find words. He's got a killer GUI setup. I mean, that man runs more software than you can shake a stick at.
Oh yeah.
He runs like 3 web browsers, a bunch of different desktops, window managers, everything.
Yeah, the first time I did an Arco install, and I wondered why Firefox, Chrome, and Vivaldi were all installed. And you ask Eric Dubois that, and he'll tell you they're installed because those are my configs. I use all 3 browsers.
Yeah.
So I guess he, you know, testing websites, maybe, you know, some of the Arco Linux websites. Maybe he wants to see how things look on, you know, all the major browsers. So.
Yeah. When I install Arco, every time I go through some of the configs and the scripts, and I just remove anything that I don't want, because there's a lot of software on that distro, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remove a lot of the stuff because I'm like, I am never going to use a lot of this stuff on my computer, and plus it's a lot of space taken up. And
right. Well, it's all, you know, his personal config. So, I mean, it's a lot of development tools and all that stuff that most of us may or may not use. We're certainly not going to use everything he uses. So, yeah, you need to open up the config file and, you know, comment out the programs you don't want, add the stuff you do. So.
Of course, and that's why I erased a lot of that stuff, because I don't use it half the time.
Yeah.
I'm another one who tried to use Enturgos and had trouble during the install. It was never installed properly. I'd install it once and then experiment with it, erase it, install it again. The second install wouldn't work. Identical install. So they do need to clean that up. Other than that, it's not a bad distro, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, this thing is ranked like number 10 in the Distro Watch page hit rankings, I think, Antergos. And I'm surprised for a distro that so many people talk highly about, really laud, that their installer is really not good.
Crappy.
And plus, it takes forever to install anything when you're first installing it. I mean, whether you do KDE, GNOME, XFCE, whatever environment you choose, it always takes forever to download the base system. It's like,
yeah, it's because it's a net installer.
It's like, what are they using, snails with their servers or something?
It took me 45 minutes to do a net install with Enturgos.
Hey, Greg, can you hear us?
I'm not going to lie. It took me over an hour on my connection. And I have 300 megabyte internet, and it's still, even on Ethernet for that matter, took over an hour. That's how slow their servers were.
My Proxmox took 5 minutes. It's the fastest install I've ever done, but it goes to the desktop, and maybe another 5 minutes to install XFCE4 and WICD, and you're up to the desktop.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah. Hey, Greg and Kerwin, you guys got your audio working? Greg, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're working. Okay.
All right, I'm from Australia.
That's fine. Kerwin is also from Australia once he gets his audio working. So
right.
We got a couple of Aussies.
Yeah.
Right.
Kerwin, I think, runs Mint 19 right now. At least he was last time I talked to him.
Well, are you talking about Susie? I left a message on Softpedia, I think, or Major Geeks, about Susie being a hot potato that no one really wants to handle.
Well, it is a profitable company. It is weird how often it gets sold, but I mean, it was worth $2.5 billion to somebody. I mean, they make money. SUSE Enterprise Linux makes money. It's a money maker. Now the thing is, how innovative is SUSE these days? I mean, when you talk about where the money is at in the server market, especially today with cloud and IoT and these sorts of things, you know, Canonical is making a big push, and those things. Red Hat, of course, is Red Hat. They're just making bucket loads of money. I wonder how SUSE is going to stay, I guess, innovative and you know, keep in the game with those two companies.
When I looked at the distributions it has published, there's not many distributions. They're very spasmodic, for maybe 5 or 6 compared to OpenSUSE, which has so many distributions everywhere. It seems to be innovation is more like OpenSUSE rather than SUSE.
And OpenSUSE was a good distro anyway to base a distro on if you wanted to create your own distro, because they had tools to make your own custom ISO.
The thing about OpenSUSE is an RPM Red Hat based, and RPM applications are so few compared to the Debian based applications. The third-party coders prefer Debian-based rather than RPM-based when they're issuing their application code file format.
Yeah, I've never packaged anything for any of these distros, so I've never created a deb pack or a RPM package, so not sure how they compare.
I use SlimJet on both Windows and Linux, SlimJet always releases its packages to be in, and hardly anyone makes an RPM version of their application code.
Kerwin just typed in the chat. He's not sure why his mic is not working. Kerwin, I know, does still use Windows, and he also uses Linux Mint. Check in the Zoom settings, your audio settings. Make sure it's set to the right audio input. If you're using an external microphone, make sure it's picking up the right mic.
Yeah, usually it's one or two things. If it isn't like in Linux, it's pulse audio issue where you got to pick the right device. But also down in the left corner of Zoom, there's settings in there as well. You need to click on.
And I know it's going to sound stupid, but also just make sure your mic is not muted. Like if it's actually got a mute button on it, you'd be surprised how many times I've accidentally hit that thing.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good, man. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, Tim.
Can you guys hear me?
Your audio's a little low.
Bring it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Testing 1, 2. No, mic's plugged in.
Okay, we can hear you now, Kerwin. Your audio is very low too, though.
Okay, my mic's plugged in. I just had to push a little harder.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Let me try.
Hey,
let me try a test here.
Yep.
Hey,
Test.
just
Yeah.
fine.
That sounds better.
Hey,
Yeah.
who's the Australian people in here again?
Australians are Greg and Kerwin. They're
Yeah.
from the land down under,
What
the land of Vegemite.
area of the place are you from, Kerwin?
Melbourne.
And you, Greg?
Canberra, ACT.
Oh, cool. Well, I have a best friend named Andrew from Melbourne. He's
Yeah, we all know each other here.
I worked for 2 years.
I know that my friend Andrew is from Melbourne, Vic, and he and I talk sometimes. So I actually
There's 5 million people in Melbourne.
really. Holy crap.
It's not a small town, huh?
I worked for 2 years there, and I lived in Chloe's bar downtown. Right on.
Yeah, we don't all live in tin shacks and drink beer out on the dirt.
Yeah.
It's not Crocodile Dundee.
Hey, Derek, did you see my comment about your poll and Windows 10?
No, I didn't. I must have missed it. Was it in the chat here, or was it in one of the other videos?
It was in one of the comments below the video.
Okay. I probably did see it. I don't remember what it was. What was that comment you left?
They were talking about using Windows 10 Pro, and I put in there you don't need Windows 10 Pro.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the home version, just Windows 10 Home would be fine?
That's all you need.
Okay.
I even run Windows 10 Home on my laptop, and I don't have any qualms about it.
The biggest difference between the two is the capability of turning some of the features on and off are shut off in there in home. You're not able to do that, and then also some of the
The main two features are being able to connect to a domain and being able to turn BitLocker on and off.
Yeah.
That's nothing. I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah. So because it was the same setup in Windows XP. When Windows XP had Home and Pro, Microsoft put the division between them because Pro was able to connect to a domain and Windows XP Home wasn't. Well, they took that out with Windows 7 and Windows 8 and 8.1, and they brought it back with Windows 10.
Yeah, there's some other things though. Some of the quote unquote privacy settings. There's a list
exactly.
you go into that you can't turn off and things like that normally you would want to. That's the biggest difference with them.
Yeah.
The reality is, I've talked about this before. If you took the telemetry out, which you are able to do if you went in the registry files, the minute they do an update, they're all back anyway. So you're never on battle.
Right.
Yeah. And the other night, Tom over at Switch to Linux told me that if I wanted to try to strip everything out as far as all the spyware and stuff, you really can't.
Yeah.
He said it's impossible to get rid of everything. So.
Hey, I know you guys have heard of Too Many Discs, but what do you think of this?
Oh, so please make it PG.
It's about a whole tub worth of discs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not dirty stuff. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
It's just normal CDs, and yeah.
It's not.
We don't need any more demonetization on DT.
Yeah.
You said
No.
it
This is how
wasn't.
big this gets, and this is not over half of it. This is just a box full.
Oh, and it's not dirty stuff?
Hell no.
Well, don't blame us on your stupid moves.
Yeah, it's all Microsoft software.
You know, it's all digital now anyway. So
Of XP. Here's XP 64-bit.
you know, you guys keep talking about me and running Windows. If enough of you guys will go over to the poll and vote GhostBSD, it might pull out ahead because.
Well, I want to see GhostBSD. I'm not interested in watching you run Windows.
I'm not interested in running Windows.
I'm not interested either.
No, I would much. I mean, I used free BSD many years ago, and I didn't really realize the power of it back then. But I would love to see you live in free BSD for a month.
At this point, I've got to say I would love it too because it's obvious I'm not going to be running Windows for the next month. I mean,
Well,
that's already that's a foregone conclusion.
Maybe you need to change the poll, Derek.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, then let me vote again. So I just did your GhostBSD season.
Oh yeah, and of course a lot of these people keep voting again. That's why I've got like 4,000 people that have voted in this poll, and there's like 60 people watching the stream.
Windows XP, legit copy.
Well, you know, DT, they're just doing it to get under your skin.
They
Oh, I know.
probably are.
You know, my channel viewers, they're trolling me. It's obvious. A lot of them hate me. So.
Yeah. Oh, TJ says go vote for BSD.
What I need is for one of you smart guys, create a bot that will keep voting for GhostBSD, or even better, Arco Linux.
While we're sitting here, like I've done it 2 times already in the past.
Oh, okay. So it now comes out he really wants Arco Linux, not GhostBSD.
That's only
That
because
was my choice, Arco Linux as well.
Yeah, Arco is definitely the easiest one of the bunch to live in. Out of that group of 5. When you go back to the group of 5 here.
I'm puzzled as to why you want seduction. I don't know anything about seduction.
Yeah, seduction is Debian unstable. Sabian is Gentoo, Gentoo based distribution. Not a lot of people have heard of Sabian. That's why I kind of threw that in. Yeah, these would be interesting to live in. Arco's pretty straightforward. It's just Arch for the most part, with better configs out of the box. So
I've been installing distros on real hardware over the last couple of weeks. Like I'll put one on, I'll play around with it for 3 or 4 hours, then I'll download another one, burn it onto a DVD, and blow it away again. So every time I'm running a new distro, I'm running it on actual hardware.
yeah.
And coming from Windows 10, the only OS that I've found so far that gives me a similar feel, and it's not, you talk about workflow and you talk about the way you do things. I mean, I've come from a Windows background for many years, and for as much as I hate it, the only thing I've found so far that resembles it slightly is Linux Mint Cinnamon.
Yeah. And you don't like Linux Mint Cinnamon, or you?
No, I love it. I love Linux Mint Cinnamon. I love it to death. And I just finished last night. I did Ubuntu Budgie 1804.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful operating system.
It really is. Yeah.
But trying to add icons to your desktop, trying to add launchers to your desktop, because I've got other games that I play that are ported to Linux, but I've got to download the whole zip file. I've got to unpack it. I've got to create a launcher. But just the simple progress of trying to create a launcher in Ubuntu Budgie is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, the Budgie desktop is it's kind of beta software. I mean, it's still under development, heavily under development. There's a ton of features that need to be added to it eventually.
But I even tried that on Elementary. I mean, Elementary is pretty, but I wouldn't touch it with a 50-foot barge pole.
Yeah, Elementary is a lot like Budgie in that it's not feature rich either as far as that desktop environment.
And so that's why I've landed on Linux Mint 19 Cinnamon Desktop. It seems to be the most.
I mean, I talk bad about them all the time, but as far as the desktop environments, that are going to give you the least amount of problems and have everything that you're going to want, because they've been around since the beginning of time. GNOME and Plasma are really, unfortunately.
You'd be surprised with what I'm running today.
What do you got?
Fluxbox?
What's that?
Fluxbox?
What are you, nuts?
Futile?
Are you running Ubuntu Studio?
I am not. You know what, Joe? I think that was the challenge off of Big Daddy Linux.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
You know what? I completely spaced it. Today I was helping some friends out, and I was sitting there and I was looking at recent releases on DistroWatch. So I downloaded one of them, and I thought, hey, this looks kind of cool. So I installed it.
What did you put on? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I'm gonna let you guys guess.
Red Core Linux.
Nope.
Alpine.
No. Yeah. Okay.
KDE Neon.
No. I don't like KDE. I'm a GNOME guy. I'm a GNOME. Like GNOME.
Oh, you're on Pop OS then.
No, I was until today.
Don't tell me you put CentOS on there.
No. Deb based.
Oh, Pin Guy.
Pin Guy, yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, I downloaded the ISO for it too. I haven't looked at it yet, but
you know, I have to say, as much as people will complain about the GNOME desktop, for me it works. For me, it's cool. And
which distro is it? I missed that. Sorry.
Pin Guy. OS.
PINGUI. Pin Guy. It's a Ubuntu-based distro. It was created by this guy. He used to hang out on the Ubuntu forums. He was a moderator, I think. I remember the guy like 8-10 years ago. His username is Pin Guy. He created his own little spin of Ubuntu, and he called it Pin Guy OS. And it became pretty popular for a while, and then it kind of disappeared for a number of years, and now all of a sudden it's back. So
he did a 1404 release, LTS release. I might, forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't think he did a 1604 release.
Yeah, until these recent releases, the last couple, I hadn't heard about Pin Guy and forever. It's been gone for a little bit, yeah.
But you know, he did a 1804 release, and I thought, okay, first things first, let's go and check out the forums and at least see if there's some decent activity on them as of late. So I spent about 20 minutes or so surfing through the forums and went, hey, you know, even before this was released, when it was still a 1404 based distro, there was still some reasonable activity. So I thought, okay, it's not a dead deal. Let's give it a shot.
You know, we blow away our distros a lot more regularly than most computer users. 1404 was a LTS release. It's supported for 5 years. I mean, there's probably still millions of people running 1404 Ubuntu, mainline Ubuntu.
Did you have to tell me about this?
You gonna try it out now, Kerwin? Pin Guy?
It looks pretty.
If you like GNOME, it's check it out. You like Ubuntu based, so
yeah, I do. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
Which distro are you talking about, Derek?
Pin Guy OS.
Yeah. You know, I have to say this. It's not in any way, shape, or form a vanilla GNOME environment. What he's done is surprisingly, and it's surprising, it's one of the few Ubuntu GNOME-based distros that has GNOME Tweak tool installed by default. So you don't have to bang your head against the wall to get stuff to work. But what he's done is he's already added the extensions that move the clock, the weather, and everything else over to the right-hand side of the panel. On the left-hand side of the panel, rather than using a hot corner with the activities like GNOME does, he uses GNOME menu. It's an extension, and this menu, I got to tell you, it's kind of got a reminiscence of a Cinnamon menu. Without the favorites on the left side. But the cool thing is I'm a big user of virtual desktops. The GNOME menu has the desktops built right in to the menu. So right now I've got 5 virtual desktops. I click my menu button, all five of my virtual desktops are right there. I mean, seriously, it's got some niggles to it. And like Derek had said, it disappeared for a while and now it's come back. if this guy keeps going with this, it's going to be a heck of a distro.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm downloading the ISO. I'm downloading the ISO. See, this is the problem, Derek. I come to your channel, I watch these videos, and then all I do is download ISOs. Download this ISO, download that ISO, download this ISO.
Yeah, but half the stuff Derek talks about is unstable anyways. So.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, you have a point. There are so many Arch-based distros, for example. It seems like a third of the distros I've reviewed on my channel are based on Arch. It is crazy how many of these things are out there.
And that's a huge swing from where it was a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, it was everything was Deb, and then you.
That's because Debian had the biggest repos. I mean, Debian still has huge repos, but now Arch, especially with the AUR, it really has more packages available than Debian now. So now a lot of folks are moving in that direction. It's all about, can you get the...
I'm surprised how little simple screen recorder is in a lot of repositories.
Yes, yeah, and that should be in everybody's repos. Simple screen recorder is...
it's kind of
the same thing with OBS. OBS should be in everybody's repositories. It's not.
Yeah.
Especially some of the newer distros, especially the independent distros, things like Solus, Void, those kinds of distros, you really have to check and make sure before you try to live in them, are the programs that are critical to you, are they available in their repos? If they're not, contact the devs and see if they'll package it for you. Most of the time they will.
I'm back.
Even a lot of the
Welcome back.
Yeah.
A lot of the distros that, you know, you're talking about how many Arch based there are.
Right.
You know, there was a certain influx of RPM based distros, but as you said, DT, they didn't bring a lot of the regular mainstay stuff into their repositories.
Right.
None of the developers were packaging it, so it was easy to just, you know, click install an RPM package. But
I had to run down and get my dinner.
The Arch stuff, I mean, their repositories are huge, and the bigger they get, the more distros that are starting to spin off of them.
Yeah. The fact that if I enable the AUR in an Arch-based distro, I can install Zoom, which we're all using right now. I can install Discord. Neither of these are free and open source, but in the AUR, the community repo, people package it. It's there.
And also a lot of people use those things, even though they're not completely open source.
Right.
I would love to use Arch, except for it's a rolling distro, and I've got 6 computers. I don't know what find that Grub doesn't work or Xorg doesn't work.
Yeah.
Are there any distros, Arch, that update every 3 months?
Well, if you're basing on Arch, I mean, it's a rolling release, meaning there's packages are constantly being updated. Now, these Arch-based distros do release snapshots every couple of months. You know, that way you're not downloading an old ISO, so you don't have like thousands of updates.
Oh, I didn't know that. You can wait 3 months and do a snapshot?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Arch, mainline Arch usually does about 4 snapshots a year.
Well, that sounds good. That's what I want to do.
Otherwise, you might have an Arch ISO you download that's a year old, and when you go to install it, things are going to break on you because it's just too old.
But see, the thing is, with the Pacman package manager, you can also set packages not to update when you do a system update.
Right. So if you're worried about Xorg breaking on you, just make it so it doesn't update ever.
3 months. I can wait 3 months and do an update?
I wouldn't do that. Not on a rolling release distro.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why I can't use it.
No. Rolling release distros, you need to keep updated. If you go a couple of weeks, it's not a problem. You go a month, you might have issues. If you go 3 months, like you just said, that update's going to break things. So
that's what I
Derek, I've got a question. With all these pretty distros that are out there now, like Elementary and Solus and all these other really nice looking distros, how long do you think it will be before there'll be a distro? I mean, with middle of 2018, how long before do you think it's going to be before somebody actually produces a Linux distro that actually functions and looks like a Windows 10 desktop? Because I believe at that point, the tiny user base of Linux is going to explode like a bomb.
Well, I don't know. Windows has never tried to mimic. Linux has never tried to mimic the Windows desktop. I mean, not just Windows 10.
But the problem is there's so many people out there that use Windows 10 that don't know a loaf of bread from a computer mouse.
Yeah, but to me, I think it's the other way around. I think Windows has taken a lot from not only the Linux world, but when you look at the tiling, I've said this over and over again, it looks a lot like Ubuntu.
It does. They take a lot of influence from KDE over the years, it seems.
Yeah, but we don't have 2/3 of the world's population using Linux. It would be nice if it was.
Well,
what you're saying.
Here's the real problem. One, it doesn't game as good as Windows does. I mean, it can, but it still needs that modern. It needs a lot of the modern titles, the AAA titles in it, and that's not very likely to happen because a lot of the developers for these games are just porting them to Windows or a console.
And look, and I agree with you 100%. The AAA game titles is a big factor, but 95% of the people that I help with computer problems
aren't gamers.
Couldn't care less about games, couldn't care less about AAA titles. All they want to do is get onto Facebook, chat with their aunt or uncle, or they want to use Skype, or they want to use email, or they want to write a letter, or they're doing a spreadsheet. They couldn't care less about AAA game titles. And Linux is a prime operating system for people, and I would say, in my experience, there are more people out there that care less about AAA game titles than there are that care about wanting to be able to talk to their son or daughter on Facebook.
But the only way to cater to those kinds of people is if we completely mimicked Windows 10. I mean, if you're so used to Windows 10 you can't function without it, I mean, we would basically just have to create a 100% Windows clone to cater to those people. That's not going to happen.
And I don't know if I agree with that entirely, because there's a lot of people that are on Windows right now that hate Windows 10. But I
hate it. I use Windows 10 and I use it every day, and I hate it. I hate it to death.
Well, and that's my point, is you get a lot of people that they don't know that there's other alternatives out there. This is going to sound funny, but I've been having problems with my phone. So I called today and talked to customer service, and I spent a half an hour talking to the lady, and she's going to be looking at Linux because she's got Windows 10. I've been trying to convert people left and right, and that's where it's going to grow. Is it going to happen in our lifetime? I don't know, probably not. But the reality of it is I still come back to, instead of looking what we always look at what it doesn't have and what it's lacking, versus looking at where it's been and where it's already at. And you look at a decade ago and where it's at now, it's leaps and bounds. And when it really got a push was when XP was terminated.
Right.
And I think Windows 7, when that terminates, you're going to see the same thing, because I still think there's a lot of unhappy Windows users, especially when they're in the middle.
Yeah, but you still need to overcome the contracts that Microsoft has with all the hardware.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Big money is still big money, and that's what's. It's not so much. I don't think it's so much because of just the user base. I think it's because of the money.
Exactly.
And that's the problem, and that's the next hurdle for Linux. That, if anything, what I'm concerned about, because gaming-wise, there's plenty of games on there. I mean, Ballistic Overkill, Derek can attest to this. To me, it's just as good as any other AAA game out there for cheap. And it's fantastic. It's a blast to play. Now, the thing, what I was going to say is I think when you're coming down the pike with this, though, if Microsoft really wants to flex its muscle and it gets into the hardware, the pocket, the deciding factor, we're all worried about them having a say in Linux. I'm more worried about them having a say in the hardware manufacturers where they start blocking out Linux.
Because Derek was talking about this topic a while ago about open hardware. I mean, if we had open hardware that would run native Linux drivers, it would change the face of computing on planet Earth.
And that may very well come. I mean, I think about this, or I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I look at, again, the community, look at the passion of the people just in this hangout here and what we're doing. That has grown so much. I never used to see or hear things like this, and now it's all over.
The free software movement and the open source software movement are a lot bigger now than they've ever been.
Right.
I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, it is, and it keeps growing. I mean, eventually we're going to get there with the open hardware. People are going to start taking that kind of stuff seriously.
But the problem is, guys, is I can still walk into a computer electronics retailer here in Melbourne, Australia, and I can talk to a guy about the Mac drivers or the Windows drivers. But the moment I mention a Linux driver, he looks at me and goes, "What? Huh? Never heard of that?"
Yeah, that happens.
And I'm going, and you work in technology. How can you possibly have a job working with computers and know nothing about Linux?
Because he never touches
server.
Because there's
never touched the server or Linux stuff or Ubuntu or anything.
And speaking of the server market, Linux just dominates the server market. That's why we focus so much on the desktop market share. But really, you know, you think, well, we only got like 3% of the desktop market share. Linux is, you know, basically dying. No, it's not. These companies are making just bucket loads of money off of Linux in the server market. Linux is doing just fine. Do we need the masses on the desktop? No, we don't. Yeah. We've done fine without them all this time. We'll keep going. So
top 50 supercomputers all run Linux.
Yeah.
You go into Best Buy. The problem that you got there is you're not talking to computer guys. You're not talking to computer guys. You're talking to sales guys. There's a difference there. So talking about going into Best Buy and bringing up anything outside of what you see in a newspaper circular or an online ad, it's like throwing apples against oranges.
And when you go into these big stores like Best Buy, don't talk to the salespeople about Linux. Yeah. Go to the Geek Squad, the guys that work on computers, that fix them. They see Linux boxes all the time because people bring them computers with Ubuntu on it. They know what Linux is over there. Don't ask the guy on the sales floor whose sole purpose is to sell you that MacBook Pro for $2,500 or whatever the price tag on that thing.
For those of us in the U.S., I can say this: Micro Center. I can't say enough good things about Micro Centers, and they are kind of few and far between as far as the physical locations. But you walk in there and you talk to a sales guy. I mean, what you would see as a sales guy at Best Buy. You talk to one of these guys that are giving you the specs on the machines, walking you through the store, finding the stuff for you. You mentioned Ubuntu; they know what the hell it is you're talking about.
Yeah,
hey, Derek, I got to jump off.
Sure, Tim.
I wanted to give a shout out to you. Hey guys, I'm going to say this: everybody that's watching this, we got about 70 or 80 people watching this video. Derek busts his rear end for these things, and we've only got about 20 or 21, 22 thumbs up. Get your butts over there. It's a simple click. Give it a thumbs up. Derek works his butt off for you guys.
Yes,
get that thumbs up going, okay, guys?
Thank you for reminding me.
Much appreciated, Tim.
Not a problem. I'll catch you later, guys.
Yeah, have a happy 4th.
Yeah, you too. If I don't see you.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Take care, guys. Take care, Joe.
Yep, see ya.
Amazon is a system now where you can run Mate on their servers, but you can only access it from a Windows computer or a Mac computer. Not from Linux yet. You know of any other?
Wait. Say that again. Say that again.
Amazon AWS. You can run the Mate desktop from your computer, but it has to be a Windows computer or a Mac computer.
So you have to access it through a remote desktop, I'm guessing, from a Windows or Mac machine.
And they only have clients for the Macs and the
Windows. Exactly. So
that's ridiculous.
No, any other systems, any other Linux systems that can be run in the cloud? Because that's the only one I've heard
of. Well, don't Microsoft run their whole back end on Linux?
No, I think they used to use
Linux
back end servers at one time.
Are they not running Windows servers at Microsoft? That's
no, they run Windows servers on the front end.
That should say a lot. We were talking about how Linux dominates the server market.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think people realize how huge Linux really is. If you look at it as a whole for what it really runs on the enterprise level,
right?
This is a moot point, you know,
and it's getting so much bigger.
Desktop that's trying to make its way right now, and that's where all these discussions are coming from.
And we were talking about open source just getting bigger and bigger, more people being on that train. I read an article, I forget where it was posted yesterday, that companies are having a hard time hiring enough people with knowledge of Linux and open source. These jobs are in such high demand now, they can't find enough qualified applicants. people that are familiar with open source.
I've seen jobs for advertised jobs here in Australia for Linux administrator, junior Linux administrators, starting at $120,000 a year.
Yeah. They can't find people that know anything about open source software. Some of these larger corporations, they're just now getting on this open source train, and they're looking for people, and they can't find people.
You know what I don't understand is when you look at where to pull an ISO down, like as an example, Mint. You look for where the closest location is to you or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, what's the one I'm thinking of, Derek, that is most popular? It's a college. Oh God.
For one of the Mint mirrors?
Yeah, the mirrors.
I'm not sure.
Oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know why we're live. That's why.
Is it Georgia Tech? Yeah.
Not Georgia Tech. There's another one. But either way, the point is when you see there's a list, there's quite a few colleges. What bothers me is, and I haven't checked in a while, so maybe I'm talking out of turn here, is, you know, why are they not focusing more on in their technology classes than what they are too? Because I don't remember, you know, all the years my kids went to school, they never even looked at that or talked about that.
Well,
because it's
Oh boy, I think I might have some insight here because I'm in college and I'm also the president of the open source club at the University of Florida. But I can definitely tell you that I'm disappointed sometimes with the curriculum because I don't think it does emphasize open source tools enough.
Right? Yeah, especially nowadays. Like I said, the trends are going in that direction, and you know, jobs are plentiful for folks that want to enter that market right now. So.
That's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to have to look it up.
Look for the mirror for the Linux.
Look for the mirror, dude.
So, William, your college experience, they focus mostly on Windows? Is that what they're...
I mean, I would say with computer science specifically, there's not really a prescribed operating system. So I guess that is a benefit. I mean, for some majors and everything, you're practically... There's a de facto mandate that you have Windows. Like, you know, they'll use proprietary software and just say like, oh, too bad. Hope you have an emulator or something. But it's getting there, I think, with computer science. Actually, recently, there was an exam that you had to take using a lockdown browser that was not available on Linux. So, I mean, I think some students just demanded like a paper exam, but and that's what they got. But
and I won't speak on computer science. I don't know anything about it, but I notice a lot of the college-age kids these days, you're in school, maybe it's because Apple cuts them a discount on these machines, but I see MacBooks everywhere on college campuses now.
Oh, yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah.
James Madison University is what I was thinking of.
James Madison, yeah.
Yeah.
What about computer languages? What do they teach there? Do they teach Python, or are they doing Windows languages like .NET?
I haven't seen anybody using .NET here unless it's something they picked up on their own. Where I'm at mostly, so they teach you Java first, which I'm not really a big fan of Java.
No.
But then I think it's just C++ really hard. If you're into the more electrical engineering, computer engineering side of things, where I'm at, I think you do more C. They teach you MIPS for assembly, just kind of as like I guess for fun when you're learning about computer organization. But that's another thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who don't take the initiative to go learn languages on their own. And I think that's kind of definitely a little bit lacking.
COBOL anymore?
No.
Oh, boy.
Fortran.
Python's, of course, really huge actually with the biology side of things. There's a professor here. I'm also a biology major, and there's a professor in the microbiome department who teaches like Python to biology students, and that's actually really good.
Now, if you want to get rich quick, we just made jokes about COBOL and Fortran, but there are so few people that know those languages well and are a master at them. You can just name your salary at some of these companies because there's so few people that know those languages now.
There was the Voyager spacecraft. They had to dig out an old guy who knew how to code program in BASIC to communicate with the Voyager.
BASIC.
You know, I should look up and see, like we have a local community college here, the tech colleges, and it'd be interesting to see what they have to offer because I've seen a number of kids. One of my sons is an example that left UWM here, which is one of the biggest schools, to go to a tech college to finish out because he said, you know, I'm going for photography, videography, which he's working for a huge firm now. And he left and only went for his associates, and he still wound up getting bumped up pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But it was because he said, you know, why do I have to spend $2,000 for a cooking class? Right. You know, it's got nothing. What's that got to do with photography? So he went to the tech college and finished out, and he said he got more out of it. And even my older son, who's into graphics design and stuff like that, and he got into, there were professors there that do stuff for Hollywood. And it's a very prestigious, unique set of classes there, and only a select few got in. And he got in until this day. He's been out of school for 9 years, and he's still in touch with his professors that when he has a question about something or whatever, or, hey, I want to go have something done up on a canvas or whatever, what's the best shot? I mean, they're very supportive of him 9 years later, you know, so that's huge. And I think if you could do that in the tech world, and especially where Linux is at, you know, and maybe start teaching the desktops a little more. That's why I mentioned too, that's where GNOME, as much as it isn't for everybody, you start kids out on GNOME in a school, a class environment, it would be fantastic. Now, that being said, unfortunately, for something that's supposed to be almost more like a tile-based, it doesn't work real well with a touchscreen, especially when you're hitting the menu on the bottom and it's flashing, and what it is, you have to sit there and hold it and let it pop up.
Yeah, just think about how much better the world would be if we get all these bloated, you know, Microsoft Office programs out of the schools and get Vim in the school. Oh, okay, not Vim, LibreOffice in the schools.
That's a bit extreme, Derek. Vim.
Hey, I did want to mention in the chat, Abraham in the chat says his daughter is 7 years old in Austria, and in school they teach how to type on iPads. That is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. You learn how to type on your iPad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
You know, I went to pay a couple of water bills yesterday down at City Hall, and they had to jump over to a different computer. They said, because the other one locked up. And I said, what are you running, Windows 7? She goes, I don't know, probably. She goes, it looks like it. She says, but it's locking up all the time. I said, yeah, well, it's Microsoft and it's Windows. It's probably so garbaged up. She goes, yep.
Yeah.
It's like, so.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I might have to live in Windows soon. We'll see. I'm still holding out hope, though.
Oh, man. Derek, so that if you do, does that mean when we see you next, you'll have hair then?
For a month? Yeah, I can grow it out for 30 days.
Derek's got the best looking bald head on YouTube.
Yeah, you'll forget to shave. You'll see he'll have a bigger beard than I have.
I had somebody message me on Reddit the other day, and it wasn't any comment about a video I did. It wasn't for Linux tech support. They said, hey, man, why don't you grow your hair out?
I hear Marmite's good for that.
If he goes on Windows, he's going to be so desperate he's going to pluck out his eyebrows in two.
Yeah. You know, I haven't paid for a haircut since 2003 because I'm cheap, and I'm afraid it's been, you know, so long since I've grown my hair out. What if it's all gray? And what if instead of straight, it's all curly now? I mean, it could look all crazy.
Gray hair on Derek.
Yeah. I was just saying, you look like Tom Hanks in what was the movie that he had the plane crash? He was on the.
Oh yeah, Castaway.
Castaway, yeah. Well, look, you'll see Derek. He's been in his office for a week.
Look like I've lost 50 pounds and.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So does anyone use a dual pane file manager like Crusader or GNOME Commander or Midnight Commander? Because I haven't seen anyone around here that really uses dual pane file
I've never tried to use one. I mean, I've played around with VIFM a while back.
Have you guys ever heard of a file manager program called Xtree Gold?
No, I've never heard of that one.
Back in the old DOS 6.2 days.
Oh, that's why I haven't heard of it.
But it was the best. It was the best line command file manager I've ever used in my life, and it was called Xtree Gold.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Midnight Commander I often use on Linux though for dual pane.
Try GNOME Commander. It's the fastest file manager, regardless of whether it's dual pane or not.
Faster than Ranger?
GNOME Commander.
I know. Is it faster than Ranger?
It's a GUI file manager. It's not
no, so it's not terminal based. That's the only ones I've ever used as far as dual pane. Like I said, VIFM, which is terminal based. Midnight Commander's terminal based.
No, I run multiple tabs in my GUI file managers. Does that count?
I mean, yeah, you can always open up a new tab or a new window, but
What you want to do is on the left pane, you want to click a folder to activate it. On the right pane, you want to click a folder to activate it, and then you hit a copy button that copies one folder to the other. So you have the right hand side as a target. You could do an rsync from the left to the right. You could do all sorts of combinations of things. You can have buttons at the top that you program in Bash, so you can have your own functions operate on the files and folders.
That sounds like Xtree Gold. That exactly, because Xtree Gold, you could get around copy protections, you could get around read-write protections. If there was a file here and you wanted it there, you go, I want that file and I want it here. Bang, done.
Yeah, without any keyboard activity.
Oh, this is all line command. It was all text, like the old blue background with yellow writing on the DOS screen.
I'm a mouser. I'm not a keyboarder.
No, Greg from Australia here. I used to use Xtree Gold. That was replaced in all over the Windows world with Norton Commander.
Yes.
Most of the dual window file managers are based on the Norton Commander model. Linux file managers can be made into dual pane window, and some of them can also copy from left pane to the right pane by default easily as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think some of the GUI file managers probably do some dual pane stuff. I don't play with most of them, so I don't
have any.
I'd set up multiple tabs in mine and then just set up key bindings to do the copy and paste and the targeting that I want, that I have specific needs for. Because most of the GUI file managers, you can also set up keybinds for commands.
Right. And you can do that in Ranger. Somebody mentioned Ranger. You can config Ranger to do pretty much anything.
That's the one I'm starting to learn now, and I'm actually liking it.
Yeah.
I use them all. Thuna, Dolphin. It's quite all the other ones as well. Nemo is my favorite one. Nemo is the one which is most favored by the independent Linux people.
Space FM does dual panes, doesn't it? It's been a while since I've looked at it.
But it's not fully GUI like Thuna or Dolphin might be.
Okay.
I prefer the Nemo because it seems to. I only have one hand. I'm quite crippled myself. I'm spastic. So my one hand enables me to do so many things just with the mouse.
Okay.
I don't hardly use a keyboard. By the way, you're talking about Zoom to link into your conference. I'm lying in bed, or turn my video on, I don't know. I'm that spastic, and I'm using a Samsung tablet on Android using Zoom to zoom into your conference. I'm at home when I'm not in bed. I go to the living room where I have a Dell notebook and I use Windows. And I'm one of the few people in the world. I'm running 4 versions of Windows 10 and 10 versions of Linux, all on the one Dell notebook.
What?
Yeah.
So you're booting 14 different OSs on one machine?
Yes, all running from Grub Customizer.
Oh my God!
Wow.
The ultimate distro hopper.
And none of those Windows updates ever overwrite Grub?
I do have a YouTube channel, Greg Zeng, under my name, and but I'll upload some more files of how I do it. I've been doing it reliably for the last several years on a number of notebook computers, so it's easily done. It's very reliable. Way back, you made a remark that Ubuntu, etc., is running the latest Linux kernel is 4.17.3. Any Debian-based operating system can be upgraded using the Ubuntu website to the latest alpha, beta, or stable version of Linux. And it's done simply by double clicking on the 3 files you want to install into the Debian-based operating system, and then you can run the latest the kernel.
Latest kernel. So
One Linux distro is complicated enough for me.
Yeah.
Oh no, I find the advantage running, say, 4 Windows or 10 Linux. I can always track it down to whether it's a connection error or whether it's a hardware error or whether it's an operating system error, literally within minutes.
But how many drives do you have in that machine?
Well, it's a Dell notebook computer, XPS 15. It came with a, I think, 128 SSD. I replaced that with a Samsung 850 Evo. It's 1 terabyte SSD. That's an M2, and the other one is a 2.5-inch drive. I've replaced that with a 4 terabyte spinning drive.
Yeah, the 4 terabyte should hold them all then.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's on the motherboard.
I've got 3 distros on it now. I'm going to be putting a 4th on there, and then I got Windows on the original drive, but I don't ever boot into it. It's just there.
No. I've never really gotten into the extreme multi-booting stuff. I know, Zeb, I mean, what is he? He has like 14 different distros on his. That's crazy.
And Colin's got quite a few too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, I would want separate drives for all of them.
The moment I can get software to run my RGB keyboard and mouse, I'm switching to Linux permanently.
Yeah.
Derek, was it Ryan and maybe Rocco that were having problems at NVMe's running Linux, or was it not?
Yeah, Ryan said he had an issue with one distro. No, Run with the Dolphin. Said he had problems with it in either MX or Antix, I think.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is because I finally pulled it out of the box. Last year, I finally looked at the date, April. It's been a year. I built this little cube computer, and I built it just because I could, and I was going to sell it. And then it's been sitting here. So I pulled it out yesterday and put it in there. And that had Windows 10 Pro because that's what people want, when you're in the secondary market. I hate to say that. Well, I have 2 drives in it, and one's an SSD with Windows on it, and I'm probably going to leave that alone. Instead of shrinking the volume, I've got a 500 gig mechanical drive for storage, which I'm probably going to change that to at least maybe a 2 terabyte. And then I was thinking there's spot for it, if you could believe it, for an NVMe. My concern was, because that's what I wanted to put for Linux, but my concern was, is Linux going to be a problem with the NVMe?
I forget the problem. I remember Ryan and Dolphin had a discussion about it, and one of them had a problem with it. I don't remember which.
Yeah, I know Ryan. I know Ryan did
1
for
terabyte.
sure. I thought Rocco too, but
yeah.
I've got an Asus motherboard with an NVMe 1 terabyte, and Arch and Ubuntu based and Debian based. I haven't had any problems with running off that drive.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's no telling what Ryan was trying. He's probably running Fedora. So.
Well, no, I think it was before. It was probably an XFCE distro. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I shouldn't because he was pretty hot and heavy in that too. But
I'm joking, Fedora fanboys. Don't start hating us. Every time I say something like that.
Derek, your A8 laptop, how's it running? You still running 4 gigabytes on it?
Now, what was that?
Your A8 laptop?
No, I have 8 gigs in it. Yeah, I got the seller of the laptop since he sold it to me and it wasn't as described. I messaged him and asked him to help me upgrade the RAM from 4 gigs to 8 gigs. Asked him could he send me a 4 gig chip on the house since, it wasn't as described. He emailed me back and said, I'll send you 2 4 gig chips free of charge. So he sent those out.
You can actually run 16 gig on those. I've got a similar laptop, and I put an 8 gig chip in with the 2 gig, and it runs beautifully.
So since he sent me the 2 4 gig chips, I have 8 gigs in this machine now, and with the other 4 gig chip he sent me, I added that to my Toshiba satellite, so now it's 8 gigs instead of 4 gigs. So this was a really good eBay seller. He took care of the issue.
I'm up in Canada, and I have to pay your $57 SSD costs $97 up here. So we pay about 1.5 for whatever you pay down there.
Yeah, for that same silicon power SP.
Yeah, for the same one.
And Australia is about the same price as Canada.
Yeah.
How close are you to the border in Canada?
North of Vancouver, just north of Vancouver.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you were just across the border, a lot of the guys, what they tend to do is they get stuff shipped to a drop location on the state side, and then they just go across and get it. You know?
That's right. Yeah, I'm too far away.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about ordering more of those 256 gig SSDs. The one I paid $55 for hopping purposes. I'm thinking about getting one of those IC docks that Tux Digital and Rocco, they love those things. I thought about buying me one. The IC dock is only about $50, but then I really need some cheap SSDs.
Months ago, and I love it.
Yeah, so I'll buy like 3 or 4 cheap SSDs to throw in that thing. So
that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, I haven't bought mine yet, but I'm going to.
It'll make distro hopping a lot easier, and then you don't have to worry about overriding the wrong drive because you can unplug, the critical ones, the ones you.
Well, if you get the one that powers off too, yeah. If you want to really be sure, you just pop it out. But
just unplug it completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm plugging.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't want to run that DD command to format a drive and then realize you formatted the wrong one.
Well, the IC dock, they actually plug into the back. You leave them plugged in. You just pop the drive out so that it's not connected anymore.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, the ones that Michael's running has individual power switches. So if you leave the drives in, you just power them off.
Right.
But if you really want to be sure, just to be safe,
just
pop the drive out.
I'm sure the power button works, but I've
don't want to connect
that OCD.
If you've ever boogered the wrong hard drive or the wrong partition, you're going to be extra careful. So
if
you'd be surprised how many people have that horror story.
Well, see, that's what you got to have for your subline underneath your name, DistroTube.
Yeah.
If you're running Linux, it's got to be a little bit painful.
Yeah. Always have good backups. That's actually, which I'm not as good with that as I should be. I might think about really backing up everything once a month. I know I should do a better job at that, but at least I wouldn't lose everything.
What are backups?
Oh my God,
they're overrated.
The backup copy of your .local for ATS, simulator, and then you go and you wipe out your other drive that has it on there, and you go, oh shoot, I forgot, I don't have any more backups on there, so now I'm starting all over again from scratch.
And of course, all the IT guys and sysadmins will tell you, because they work with such critical data, you not only need to backup, you also need to have a backup of the backup. Just
2-3 copies, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. One on a NAS, one in the cloud.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got to be in different locations.
And one in a safety deposit box at the bank.
Yeah, locked up somewhere.
Yeah, offsite.
Running my Dell notebook computer, I have 2 backups running in the background all the time on my USB remote drives, hard drives. And as well as that, so that goes continuously. I use Lucky Backup in Linux, but generally I work mainly with Windows on the Dell notebook. Oh, by the way, I was thinking all the operating systems work better with a good brand name computer and one which is not the newest one. So my notebook is 2013 Dell. So I find that I don't have any hardware faults with it, and no hardware incompatibilities.
No.
Well, Derek proved by buying that laptop that he resurrected. You don't need to buy new hardware to get good hardware.
No, I mean for $165 all in, I have a practically new Lenovo ThinkPad. I mean, this thing doesn't look like it's ever been used. Has an A8 processor, not the best processor, 256 SSD drive, 8 gigs of RAM, $165.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got cheaper than I did.
Yeah.
I have a Lenovo ThinkPad X220T with 10 gigs of RAM in it that I put in, or RAM, and an SSD, and it cost me about $350.
And Ansem, thank you for that super chat, by the way. Ansem in the chat, appreciate that, buddy. It says it's a donation for the IC dock. Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually plan on ordering that IC dock probably in about 2 weeks. I should have the funds for the IC dock and at least a couple of SSD drives. That's kind of been in the works for a little bit. I've been needing that. So the IC dock itself is not terribly expensive. It's about, I think, $50 for the 4-bay IC dock.
Then you can do unboxings exclusively for Linux hardware.
Yeah, the cost is going to be the SSD drives that go in the IC dock. But, you know, I don't have to buy all 4 SSD drives at once. I can buy them, you know, 1 or 2 at a time. So. Also in the chat, I wanted to mention Dan Simmons. We were talking about backups. Dan mentioned test your backups. Very good point. By the way, Ansem, if you had a question in the chat, go ahead and post it. Anything you want me or anybody in the chat to answer for you.
6-bay IC dock, $55.99 on Amazon.
For the 6-bay? Yeah.
Yep.
I probably would only buy the 4-bay because if I bought the 6-bay, I would feel the need that to buy 6 SSDs.
He needs to fill it. He needs to fill it.
Well, what I actually use the last 2 bays for are bigger drives that are just like storage drives, and then I use 4 for.
Oh, so you're not actually booting anything on them; they're just strictly for storage.
The last 2, yes. The first 4 are the ones I keep my OSs on.
That's exactly what I've been toying with. Is whether I haven't. That's why I've been balking for a month here. Why I haven't bought one is because I've been looking at the 6. And the other thing is you got to check your motherboard and make sure you have the support on there too. And I do, but I'd have to lose the DVD. And don't give me the DVD preach because I do still run DVDs, but I actually have a portable if I need it once in a while.
Oh, what? You have an optical drive?
Yeah. Well, for storage, especially for backups, what I do is I've had this for a little bit. I have a 1 terabyte SSD that I keep handy for backing up. Especially when I'm going to wipe out a system. Say if I wanted to blow away Manjaro here today, I can pretty much back up everything to that 1 terabyte SSD. Speaking of which, what do you guys do for backups? I mean, do you guys, you know, back up to SSDs, external drives?
I use a crappy little 2-bay NAS, an old D-Link, DNS 320.
Mm-hmm.
To 2 1 terabyte mechanical hard drives. So that's kind of got me worried at the moment. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I've got a few external hard drives I use, or if it's something really critical, I'll burn it to a DVD.
Okay.
I have a 4 gigabyte terabyte and a 4 gigabyte terabyte for backup, and I wrote a bash script to do an rsync about once a week. So I'll just back up if I want to, but using rsync.
Yeah.
2 USB drives, 4 terabyte and 2 terabyte, and then a 4 terabyte MyCloud NAS. And then my home directory I keep on the NVMe
That's a
drive,
lot of storage.
1 terabyte, so that no matter what I change my operating system to, I just put symbolic links in the operating system to that drive so that, you know, it never gets wiped out when I change operating systems.
Dave, you're too smart for your own good, David.
Yeah, I mean that's a ton of storage too. He's talking about 2 4 terabytes and a 2 terabyte. That's
I never got into cars or sports or anything.
So. That's all you do is computers, though.
Yep. 1080 Ti, you know, video card, 64 gigs of RAM. I overkill when I build a computer.
1080 Ti. You know, you could have put a down payment on a house for the president.
Yeah.
He could have bought it in Australia. He could have.
I've got an internal 4 terabyte that I use primarily, and then I have a 2 terabyte that I throw copies on there for. But I'm actually I've been putting together a parts list for I'm going to put a little external NAS. I'm going to put that together for myself and just run a RAID on the NAS and go that route.
A couple of you guys mentioned you use rsync. Any of you guys use tools like TimeShift or Deja Dupe if you run Ubuntu?
I use TimeShift.
You use TimeShift?
TimeShift's nice, but you gotta be aware of if you're a newer user to that, is it'll start burning up your drive. If you tends by default want to keep making multiple copies and never get rid of the old, which you could set it to get rid of the old ones. But
well, you have to, you set it like if you want to have it take a snapshot once a week, you need to have it delete the snapshots that are, say, a month old. So that way you're not keeping every snapshot you ever create, because a year or two down the road, you're going to run out of disk space, and you're going to wonder why your computer just locked up for no reason.
Yeah, because if that's the case, you might as well use Windows, because that's the same thing it does.
Right.
I'm using Proxmox with ZFS, and with ZFS you can take snapshots anytime you want, and it's copy on write, so the amount of disk space is minimal. It's next to nothing on it. So you can take a ton of snapshots doing that way, and it only gets, the snapshot only gets changed when you change the original source. Otherwise, you just got a pointer to the source. So it's good for logical problems, but not for physical problems. If your drive crashes and you use XORed or something, then you're out of luck.
Yeah, I don't know much about ZFS. Now, TimeShift has the option of using rsync or ButterFS. If you got any of you guys play around with ButterFS for your file systems?
I have in the past, and I didn't like it that much because of subvolumes, and I had trouble losing data. I'd use it for the operating system if I had it backed up, but I'd never use it for data. ButterFS.
Yeah, it's just not stable enough.
Just not stable enough. No.
Okay.
ZFS is supposed to be the most stable and the most, the most reliable file system available.
I've been using it for 4 years, and I don't use anything else but ZFS.
Yeah,
well, ZFS. I'll know all about ZFS very soon if GhostBSD pulls it out in that poll, which it might.
And the nice thing is that you don't have to pre-partition. If you have your videos on one partition, you don't have to allocate 60 gigabytes and only use 20, and then have a audio partition where you use 10 bytes out of 40. You allocate the partitions through bash at any time you want. So they all share the same common pool on the drive. So you can grow and link, and they're still real partitions. You can compress them, you can encrypt them.
There you go, Derek. If you wanna set up a backup, get Edwin to help you.
Yeah. You know what? I should just I don't know, back up to a NAS, or if I wanted to get fancy. Right now I just stick with what I'm doing. I just plug in my external drive every now and then and just back up anything that's critical.
But when your DistroTube channel reaches 1 million subscribers,
yeah, you're right.
And you've got 400,000 ISOs crawling around on your hardware.
No, I delete them like once a month. I go through and delete all those, because it does take up. I've actually, you guys are going to laugh. I mentioned running out of hard disk space and computer locking up. Yeah. I have done that, creating too many VMs doing this channel.
Naughty boy, Derek.
Yeah, I actually
did a video on just that not that long ago where you were going through deleting them all. I remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I knew it was about to happen. All of a sudden, computer's acting real weird, and you're like, okay, this is.
Do I have too many ISOs downloaded? Probably.
Yeah. And I'm going through a Linux install in a VM, so I know the drive space is like at 99%, and once it gets to a certain point, so I'm deleting VMs as fast as I can, trying to get disk space back before. It completely locks up.
So there you go. There is a need for Derek needs a NAS.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah, I know.
That was funny. I remembered it was in the last month or two at most is all when you were going through.
It might have been a month or two ago. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was getting close though. I could tell. The mouse wasn't working right. The keyboard wasn't working right, and it's unusual the way it was acting. I mean, it wasn't your normal like. Batteries are low in the wireless mouse or anything. So luckily I thought about.
Now let me ask you this, Derek. Was that right after your stream locked up on you? Wasn't it right around that same time when you remember you were doing that live stream and it locked up on you?
I've had a couple of those. Yeah, it was probably around that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you open up, some kind of a disk tool and you see that 99% of your disk is full, that's when you need to start deleting stuff. Quickly, really quickly.
Quick delete.
Yeah, Tony in the chat. Appreciate that super chat. His comment: would you use LVM snapshot over ZFS? Well, like I said, I've never played with ZFS, so I can't really give you a good opinion on that. But I might play around with it if I do BSD.
It's just two commands you need to know: zpool and ZFS. And then has a subcommands. So if you don't learn about a dozen commands or 2 commands and 6 subcommands, you've got it mastered pretty well.
Now in FreeBSD,
man who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, if I GhostBSD is based on FreeBSD, is there any kind of like graphical utilities for these kinds of backups in ZFS?
I don't know.
You don't know? Wonder if they have any kind of snapshot tool for.
Oh yeah, there's. I do it manually. I can't really tell. Probably, but I haven't looked into.
Well, I probably do it in the terminal too, but you know, I was just wondering if they had any kind of graphical programs. I know nothing about BSD. Like I said, I'd be going into this kind of brand new, so.
In the long run, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's what everybody tells me. Is that particular file system is just head and shoulders above the rest. So, and I guess for licensing reasons, we can't really have it in Linux. At least nobody really ships it out of the box.
Box is the only one really that does it from there. Somehow they've mastered it. Yeah. They've mastered it completely. Even Grub. Usually Grub gives ZFS a problem, but they've got a perfect system for some reason, and it's baked into the kernel. So I don't know. They've.
I know that's why, like Canonical and Ubuntu, you know, they don't offer you ZFS because there could be some issues with the licensing. They're not sure. Their lawyers are not sure, so they just stay away from it. So
I'm sure that's why nobody else does it. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now it's pretty much all the BSDs that use it. So.
Okay. So.
The one thing you have to remember by it, I know that Mr. You know who, he says, I don't know how you do that, Mr. F. You call him. He mentioned about a lot of thumb drives. The thing about thumb drives and DVDs.
Oh, you're talking about Mr. F. Yeah. One of my regular viewers.
Yeah. Those things, they have shorter lives than you think. Although I've had a lot of DVDs that have lasted a long time, but those images eventually could disappear. And then the same thing with flash drives.
Yeah, thumb drives definitely have a shelf life. If you overwrite them a whole bunch, like if you're hopping the way people like me and Joe hop, they don't last that long. So they have so many writes to them, and after that, they just won't work anymore.
They fade.
Mm-hmm.
Not only they fade, or you get partial corruption or something like that, where only you might have a 4 gig and all of a sudden it's 2 point something.
I had a 256 gig SSD go belly up on me a few weeks ago.
No.
Oh, that really hurt. And then I went through the internet trying to find it. I heard that you could power cycle them to try and bring them back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried that and it's still dead. So I lost a 256 gig SSD and it really broke my heart.
Yeah, but you had good backups.
Not what was on this drive. I didn't.
No.
I lost it all.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. There is nothing worse than not having good backups when something goes kablooey.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll break your heart.
Yep, it did.
Well, guys, I'm gonna kill the stream here in another few minutes. We've been streaming about 2 hours now.
Derek, real quick, the Juno release, the beta.
You looking for a link?
Alpha, yeah, he's looking to find out where we talked about it earlier. That's why I know.
And it took me a little time to find it too, because in a lot of the news articles and release announcements about it, I couldn't find a link either. But the OMG Ubuntu article did have a link to it. It's actually at the bottom, this big blue thing. Let's see if I can actually just copy the link. Yeah, I'll post it in the YouTube chat. All right, that should have posted it in the chat there.
Yeah,
if not, just go into
OMG Ubuntu's main page. That's the first thing that pops up on the story. So
yeah, I'll post to that article too. Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, this has been fun, guys.
Yeah.
I know Joe, of course, being in the U.S., you're going to have a big celebration tomorrow for the 4th. You're going to pop fireworks and celebrate Independence Day.
Yeah.
Big federal holiday for us. So I don't think I'm going to do much tomorrow. I probably won't do anything on the channel anyway. So I'm going to take it easy, spend time with the family. Let's get everybody to give a last word on our way out here. Joe, you got anything for us?
Just for those that are celebrating tomorrow, have a nice, happy day. Stay safe and enjoy your families. And for those who aren't, just also enjoy your Linux. And it's. I think this is an awesome community, and I'm meeting people all the time through this. So I just hope everybody feels the same way. A great group of people.
It's the best community. Edwin, any last words, sir?
Yes, I enjoy your channel a lot. I'm the one guy who watched your Qtile videos and actually tried it and enjoyed it a lot. And best wishes to everyone.
All right. Thanks, Edwin. Kerwin, last words, sir.
I just love these Tuesday night chats you've got going, Derek. It's awesome.
Well, it's not a regular thing because I never know what I'm going to be working as far as my work schedule, but I will try to do more of these. These are fun.
And it's nice to be able to talk to other people around the world that know about Linux and understand Linux.
Yeah, and Joe mentioned what a great community. He's right. This is the best community.
Awesome community.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're creating here is just, it's beautiful.
Appreciate that, Kerwin. William, any last words, sir?
Not a lot. Since my first time, I guess all I can say is it's fantastic as a younger viewer, just listening to some of all the wisdom that you guys have. So, and I'm glad I can, I guess, be a part of this community, even though I'm kind of novice at it.
You were about to call us old nerds, weren't you?
Well, we are. I'd be happy to be an old nerd one day. So,
thank you, William. Come back and join us again.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, David.
Thank you, Derek, for all the learning you have gifted me over the last couple months as I've gotten to know you, and happy Treason Day to all of us here in the States.
All right.
Take care, guys.
All right. All right. Before I go, of course, I do need to give a special thanks to my patrons, a special thanks to all my Patreon subscribers. David, Carlos, Nick, Daniel, Brian, Leor, A.K. Ron, Keith, Dan, Michael, Tony, Bruno, David, Mike, Silvio, Omar, Mark, Mr. Niggly Pops, John, Carl, Greg, Rob, Matt, Christian, Tiedemann, Stephen Z, Eduardo, Alex, Jake, Benjamin, Stephen B, Marcus, Interceptor, Tubella, Humaid, Paul, the other Paul, Chuck, Ben, John, Swami, Mr. Smarty Pants, and Dan. You guys rock. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.
Peace. Bye.
Peace.
All right.